What's going on, everybody? So, anyways, I usually don't do movie reviews. But we went to the IMAX, and the reason I'm doing this review is because I've been a Godzilla. I grew up with Godzilla. I used to watch Godzilla when I was a little kid. I used to run home on the weekdays. It'd come out at 4 o'clock every day, new Godzilla, and it would be WKBD, Channel 50 Detroit, and I would come home and watch Godzilla every single day. Or there would be some kind of, it was either a rerun or whatever, they would show Godzilla. I grew up on Godzilla. I love Godzilla. So, and the fact that I was bringing my whole family for the very first time, my son, my daughter, my wifey, myself, we all were going to the IMAX. You know, how crazy is that? You and your family, you used to watch Godzilla on a little 19-inch black and white TV every day, Channel 50 Detroit, and you was like, now you get to let your kids experience IMAX 3D Godzilla for the very first time. How exciting is that? So we pack up the whole family. It costs about $75. I don't know, that's kind of extreme, $75. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing the review, because you're paying $75. You want to be entertained, because it is Godzilla, and I think the last couple of Godzillas have been really boring, and the scripts were terrible. I don't know, CGI, whatever. I thought the stories are just terrible. I think it takes away, especially when you go to see IMAX movies. When you want to see an IMAX movie, there's only certain movies that should be on IMAX, and that's action and stuff going on, and you should be lost in the movie. I think there's only a couple movies the whole time I've ever seen on IMAX and that were good. And that was Avatar, and the first Star Trek movie, the recent one. Other than that, I haven't seen a good IMAX movie, and I'm looking for one. I was hoping my family you get lost in the movie, and I didn't get lost in the movie. I was like 30 minutes in, I was like, my leg's starting to hurt. I gotta use the bathroom. I didn't even care. So this is gonna be a huge spoiler Godzilla review. So if you don't want to know about the movie and you totally want to just get out of it, that's fine. Whatever, turn it off now, because I'm gonna spoil Godzilla completely. So in the beginning of the movie, it's 1999 in the Philippines, and these guys were digging for something. They thought they found uranium. They break through, and they break through this cavern. They find a old Godzilla skeleton that had some parasites on it. One was dead, but another one, because the air hit it, had hatched, and it crawled out from this big, huge cavern, and it was hungry, and it lives on nuclear energy. So the first thing it went to is like its sensors or whatever is attracted to nuclear energy. It goes to Japan, and then one of the main characters is introduced, the guy from Breaking Bad. It's his birthday, his wife, and his son. They're the third perspective of this movie. They're introduced. He's married. They go to the nuclear power plant. He's on the phone. He's like, oh, there's some seismic activity going on. He sent, the creature comes there, and it feeds off this nuclear energy, and it is like, goes into this cocoon state where it's gestating and getting bigger or whatever, becoming the creature that it's supposed to from this little parasite egg thing or whatever. It goes over there to Japan. It blows up this nuclear power plant. His wife dies, and then the story goes like he's kicked out of this place. His son sees the plant gets destroyed while he was in school. Then 15 years later, it shows his son, and his son is a military guy in the U.S. military, and he gets a call on the phone. He's in San Francisco. His dad is in trouble. He was trying to get back into the nuclear power plant because he's trying to figure out, why did I lose my wife? And so he goes back to save his dad, and his dad's trying to, he thinks his dad's nuts. And his dad finally convinces him, let's go back and check it out. So they go back together, and when they get there, they get caught again, but then they're brought, for some reason, instead of taken off the island, they're brought to the main source of what's going on at the nuclear power plant. It's the creature that crawled out of the Philippines in 1999, and now it's been sitting there for 15 years. His son's all grown up now, by the way. So it's been sitting there gestating and molting and transforming and morphing into whatever it's supposed to be. So it's sitting there and it sucks up all the energy, and all of a sudden they try to kill it, but it has an EMP power. So they try to kill it. It pops out of this cocoon, and it EMPs the whole place. And he's on this bridge, and he sees it, and he falls, and sometimes he gets hit by the beam. So the guy from Breaking Bad dies. So now the main character in this movie is a no-name actor who's constantly looks like somebody's been pouring like squishing like onions in his eyes. He's always like look like he's about to cry every scene. And you can't get lost in this guy because the story is like, okay, you built the story about this guy and this actor can't carry the movie, and so you're really bored at this point. And at this point, there's no Godzilla, and we're about 30, 40 minutes into the movie. No anything about Godzilla. Only thing you see is in the beginning of the movie where they showed like Midway, where they were trying to kill it or something, and nukes did not destroy it. So that's your first hint, like, okay, they tried to kill Godzilla with a nuke and it didn't happen. But that was in the very beginning in the credits. So you pick that up immediately. So here we go back to where they try to kill this EMP monster. So they're trying to figure out, between the Breaking Bad guy, they took his information, and so they have this Asian guy and this Asian chick who've been part of this Monarch program, who know these aliens existed since day one, and they're like, "What did your dad tell you? What information?" And the guy's like, "I can't remember, but I think he said that they were talking. Somebody was talking to each other." So, make a long story short, this creature was calling out to this creature that was in Japan that gestated and morphed into its full size was the male. And so it's kind of like there's a male and a female, and the male is like a little like a black widow. It's kind of like an insect with legs and wings and stuff, and it's really stupid looking. And it's the small creature, and it was calling out to the female, which is the really big one. And they look like insects. They got a bunch of the female doesn't have wings, but the male does. And so the story is kind of like, okay. Then they go on, and then this little the female, or no, not the female, but the male is flying around trying to find the female. The female was parasite was stored in Las Vegas, and it was feeding on nuclear waste there, and gestated and became really big and trampled Las Vegas. They showed a couple of that. I mean, it really didn't show like it was. They're not after humans or anything like that. So the male was looking for the female, and it finally flew around and found him, and by this time you've seen Godzilla a couple times. You've seen his fins. They don't really show Godzilla, and then when they do show him, you see it from the perspective of the main character, which is a no-name actor. So when he's looking through his goggles and he's flying down from the sky, and they have to do a halo jump into the monster because the monarch creatures, which are the two parasite creatures, have EMPs and they knock out everything. So I don't know. I just through the whole movie I was bored, really boring. And make a long story short, Godzilla is not the main character in this movie, which is a shame. And I don't know. I'm not gonna say or repeat every little piece that happened in the movie, but anyways, so the United States had to come up with the only people had to come up with a contingency plan. With the United States, nobody else was informed. No Russians, no coalition or whatever. I think it was NATO had to quarantine off one area. I don't know where it was at, but they had to quarantine off one area. So finally, the EMPs knocked everything out, and this dude's supposed to be like an EOD master, ordnance disposal a guy, and he made this specific clock that was wind up, and it would stick in there, and it wasn't affected by EMPs, and he had to put it in there, and they were gonna lure all the monsters out from San Francisco and blow them all up, and they had to make a contingency stand. Meanwhile, the Asian guy who knew about this whole program, he's like, let them fight each other. And the whole time he spoke perfect English through the movie, right? And then finally, when he introduced Godzilla in the movie, he's like, Godzilla. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You're like speaking perfect English, and all of a sudden you say Godzilla. You know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, anyways, at the end of the movie, at the very end of the movie, like the last 15, 20 minutes, they're fighting in San Francisco, and it is the female and the male. They're fighting Godzilla, and then the no-name character guy, the female lays her eggs, and he goes in there, and that's where the nuclear bomb is. And they can't turn it off, but they don't want to kill everybody because it's a super bomb or something. So he has to go in there. They have to grab it, bring it out to shore, and blow it up. And they were trying to get in it, and they couldn't dispose of it, or turn off the bomb, right? And so he killed this guy. The no-name actor killed all its little babies. In the meantime, the two monsters were beating up Godzilla, and you didn't even get to see like, you know, and all that. You got to see like about 5 minutes of that fight. It was like we don't spend too much money on CGI because man, it'd be too expensive or whatever. I don't know, for whatever reason. And these monsters were like retarded creatures or something. They looked like flying spiders, and they couldn't even fight Godzilla. And Godzilla's like this monster with big old arms. And you know, another thing about this movie is like there's no climax to Godzilla, like, you know, and loud shock waves. I mean, you might have heard like one footstep the whole time in the movie. There wasn't like this leading up to Godzilla and just being, you know, a presence on the screen. You only heard him like scream like maybe 4 or 5 times in the whole movie. So he's fighting these two creatures, right? And the mother creature goes back and tries to save her babies after the no-name character guy sets them on fire. So then that leaves Godzilla fighting the male, which is a lot smaller. And then the monster flies in, and Godzilla like sees him out of the corner of his eyes like this, and then he like slaps his tail around and slaps the creature into a building, and like a big old piece of the building is sticking out of it like eh. And I'm like, that was lame. And so then he's going after the other creature, and then he finally, at the very end of the movie, or close to the end of the movie, he's like, zzz, and his fins start to light up, and he like blasts this other monster, the female, like a couple times, and she gets a little like woozy-headed or sick or whatever, and then the nuke, in the meantime, what they feed off of and are attracted to is on the little ship, and they try to take off, but here comes the mother, like, you know, you killed my babies, and then this guy gets knocked out or something, the character, and then the other military dudes are trying to like get the thing started. So the monster doesn't sink the whole ship where the nuke is on; it just slaps the top of it off. So conveniently, it's left there, and then it slaps a couple other military dudes. The whole time in the movie, they were shooting rockets and missiles and machine guns, and they didn't even see them. But during this time, that monster for some reason sees them now, and so anyways, the guy gets on a ship and he's like pushes the ship forward and he's trying to get out of there with the nuke. In the meantime, you know, you don't know where Godzilla's at. I don't know what happened. He like sidestepped or whatever. You know, he was like chilling in the background. And then so the main mother creature tries to eat this, like comes down on this dude and is about to eat him. And then all of a sudden Godzilla bites her on the neck. And then all of a sudden, the cliche ending of the other monster, like right out of King Kong, he grabs the female's mouth, opens her up, and then burns her right through and rips her head off, and then holds it and then turns his head like, oh, look at me, I'm a badass. It was so cliche. I mean, I didn't get excited anywhere through the whole movie. And at the end, I guess Godzilla gets all tired and shit, and he falls over, and the dude's in the ship, and the super megaton nuke is like in the ship going out like a little boat, and the military comes down, swoops this guy out, it blows up on the shore, and they come see Godzilla, and he's like, you know, he's laying there, and then finally he gets up, and he goes off into the water. End of the movie, right? So I'm saying to myself, gosh, this whole movie, I'm sitting the whole time, and I'm like, IMAX, 3D, action, Where is it? It's nowhere to be seen until the very end. Like, if somebody could take, like, the couple clips of the monsters in the movie, it would be like 25, 30 minutes. And at best, you're not going to hear, like, the monsters, you know, screaming at each other. Like, it was like 5 minutes. You might get a couple scenes. It wasn't the whole time. Like, they would show third-person perspectives from the guys that were watching it, and they had goggles on, and it was like, it was like all quiet. And like, dude, I want to hear the monsters. I'm in IMAX. I want to hear, you know, I want to hear the damn screaming and all that. You only got it like a couple times. You didn't hear none of that, you know, and the shock waves of them fighting and all that. It wasn't there. So here's my suggestion of the next, if you're ever going to do a Godzilla movie, let me give you a tip from a Godzilla fan my whole life. All right, here's what you should have done for Godzilla, because this is the day and age we live in. First of all, we live in a day and age of extraterrestrial, you know, interest is at an all-time high. Aliens, and that's what people, they're fascinated with aliens. I mean, that is across the board the first great thing you want to start out with. So what they should have did was Godzilla's in hibernation. This is my Godzilla 3D IMAX because I like action and I want to see Godzilla fight and I want to be enthralled. I want to lose myself in a Godzilla movie. This is how the Godzilla movie should have been. This should have had an alien race that wants to destroy all humans on the planet, right? So what they do is they send down some scary, hideous creature that you would be like, have nightmares about. So you send, the aliens fly by and they show them like hovering like maybe huge spacecraft that just, she's about to take over the earth and just have like this, they want to eradicate the humans, but they can't come here because the microorganisms or whatever would kill them and stuff. So they got to eradicate everybody. Whatever, make up a story. So aliens would send down some super monster creature and it would be all scary. Maybe a couple of them, right? So then Godzilla comes out because, you know, the vibrations or whatever, you know, nuclear or gamma waves, it would wake him up. So he would come out and then have him fight these alien super monster creatures, maybe like 2 or 3 of them, and like have Godzilla just going off with the flames coming out of his, you know, electricity and, you know, and have him go super crazy and fight these alien monsters who are trying to kill the human race. Godzilla's protecting us. Then we have a vested interest in Godzilla. He's trying to protect us and the planet, right? That makes sense. I'm interested now. I'm lost in the movie. I want him to win. He's the underdog. He's fighting like multiple alien creatures. But here's the ticket. Here is the sale of the century. So now you have Godzilla. You're vested interest in him. You have these alien monsters about to kill Godzilla. Man, like have him lose an arm and stuff. Godzilla's arm fall. He's a lizard. It will grow back. He is a lizard, so he can lose an arm and like have him bleeding out of his, you know, blood squirting out of him. He's about to die, and then all of a sudden, this other alien spaceship comes by and sends in a reinforcement Godzilla, like a super Godzilla, and he does some other stuff. Maybe lasers come out of his eyes, and he rescues the other Godzilla. But at the end, the one Godzilla that is our homeland Godzilla, he dies. Like have him get killed, and everybody feels sorry. Like, what are we gonna do? This our savior's dead. And then all of a sudden, the other alien race is trying to save our planet, and maybe they're the protectors of our planet. They're the ones that put that other Godzilla there in the first place. And he somehow sends out a mental signal, and they pick it up, and boom, they bring the improvement Godzilla. And he's got lasers coming out of his eyes, and he slaps the shit out of these other aliens, and that's the end of the story. And they're like, yeah, we got another badass Godzilla. And then you replace the old ass Godzilla that really ain't that cool anymore. Then you replace him with a badass Godzilla, super improved aliens Godzilla, kills the other alien intruder Godzillas, or monsters, and then everybody's in the fucking theater going crazy. Woo! You know, it's exciting. Why can't you make a script like that? This shit was so boring. I spent $75 with my family. I spent An hour and 20 minutes. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair. It was so boring. And I got like 5 or 6 minutes of entertainment. I mean, it was terrible. And that was the end of the story. So that's my version of what they should do for the next Godzilla. God, this Godzilla was boring. I will seriously. There was only one cool part in this movie, and that's when Godzilla opened up the other monster's mouth, and that wasn't even cool. It was cliche, but because it killed the other monster and it was cool, that was the end of the movie. Yeah, that was it. And I have to give this movie, especially the amount of money and the entertainment that I got out of this, I probably have to give it like a 4, maybe a 3.5 out of 10. Very, just disappointing, especially coming from a lifelong Godzilla enthusiast. I was highly disappointed. And especially being on IMAX, I was not entertained. I didn't lose myself. I didn't get lost in the movie. It was boring. It was a big waste of money, and I'm disappointed we spend that much money on a movie. I'm disappointed from the only good thing I got out of it was being with my family and just having them enjoy the one little couple bits and pieces where the I mean, Jurassic Park was better than this movie. And that movie was, what, 1991 or whatever? I don't even know. Anyways, that's it. I'm done. That's my review. Take it or leave it. If you want to go see the movie, I highly suggest you just wait for home video. Anyway, peace. I'm out.